Speaking of which, we're talking about a guy in his return that can do it both. He can bruise inside and also shoot that outside shot. Boogie Cousins, after almost exactly a year, the four-time All-Star and two-time All-NBA performer, will play his first game donning a Golden State Warriors jersey. According to Twitter, Boogie is ready to get his groove back on the court. I don't know if you guys have seen it, but he's posted on Twitter that he's ready to dance and get out there. 3D. You had a behind-the-scenes look at Boogie the past couple of months. What do you think about where he's at and his ability to get back on the court?
Honestly, guys, I'm really excited for Boogie, and it's more so booed about his reputation as being a young guy, not wanting to maybe work hard or share the basketball, all these different narratives about him. So I think going through this injury has really humbled him and really had him dig deep. We've all been there before. When you're sitting there, you're watching the game go before you, you say to yourself, man, I really missed this. This is something I love to do. This is why I went to Kentucky and I was one and done. But this is also maybe, Booz, the last opportunity to prove to people, I'm still, 28, 29 years old. I still got a lot of basketball to play. But mentally, am I caught up physically? More importantly, I'm playing on a franchise team that's about championships and going deep into the playoffs every year. So I'm actually happy for him, and watching him go one-on-one full court, watch him in the swimming pool. We all know all this stuff is good to get you back on the floor, and it's different. But I think mentally, being around KD, being around the Splash Brothers, understanding being around true professionalism, trying to win a championship every year, I think it's really starting to rub off on him.
Booz, how is that different? You heard 3D say it. The game is different than practice speed. What's it going to be like for him when he first gets out there?
Yeah, it's so different. You can be in the pool working out. You can be on the treadmill. You can be eating salads. But when you first get out there and you see the crowd, you see your teammates, you see their adrenaline, your adrenaline starts pumping, you're like, oh, it's real now. And so he'll be at a different level than he's been at in the last couple of weeks of practicing. And I'm excited, just as a big man, he's one of the best big men that we got in this game. So I'm excited to see him back out on the floor. And
for the Golden State Warriors, you saw the 51 points in the first quarter against the Denver Nuggets. They got Steph Curry back. They got Draymond Green back. They look like your back-to-back champions. And now you bring in an all-star caliber center that he's a guy that likes to score. How is that going to affect their chemistry, you think, at all?
Not at all, because if Kevin Durant, and I've been telling people this, Booz, if Kevin Durant can come in as a former MVP and go, okay, this is kind of Steph Curry's team. So if Steph has it going like the other night we saw at home, here you go, Steph.
Right.
We saw the night before that when Klay had it going with the 43. That was a players-only game. Here you go, Klay.
Right.
So I think this team being so unselfish, I think Boogie's going to fit right in because he doesn't have to come in, because we all keep saying the 25 and 12 Boogie.
Right. Yeah.
They don't need that. They just need Boogie to come play basketball, and the numbers will take care of themselves.
Right. And a team like that, I mean, at the end of the day, this is the team where you sacrifice because the bigger picture is the championship.
Yep.
You know, Boogie's here, he took that $5 million to win a championship. You know, it's an environment where they hang banners on the wall. Yeah, guys get accolades, guys make the all-star team. You know, KD's won the finals MVP. But he's going to sacrifice to win a championship. That's why Boogie can.
And you mentioned that deal that he got where allegedly that was the only offer on the table for a four-time All-Star, two-time All-NBA performer. Sometimes you're in a situation where you're humbled a bit, right? And when you sense your basketball mortality. Do you think that's the case with Boogie?
Yeah, I think the situation was, I mean, when I was looking at his free agency last year, I thought he was going to get a lot of offers from a lot of different teams. So when I heard that this was the only offer, that is a humbling environment. It's going to make you be like, okay, I got to take a step back. But the great thing about that, the environment that 3D talked about he's in, he's playing with Kevin Durant, Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green, playing for Steve Kerr, a championship caliber team. So you learn from those guys on how to be successful in this league and how to win in this league. That's something that Boogie's been looking forward to do.
And once again, Chris, at this point in his career, if this would have been any other injury, maybe an ankle, you know, maybe, but I think it's the Achilles that's really making people nervous because we talked about in our meetings. There hadn't been a lot of guys that's come back from Achilles and have been an all-star. But once again, you don't have to be that guy this first year. If you can fit in and be that person to help them win again, now you're telling the rest of the NBA, I know how to play winning basketball. I've kind of changed the narrative on how people used to look at me.
Okay, so the question there is where you look at his body. Boogie's always been a bigger guy.
He looks
and
good
he
right
looks
now.
slim
oh my goodness,
and trim.
He looks great.
He's still 28 years old.
That's
young.
That's 28 years. He's super young as we say in basketball years because he was one and done. I was wrong. I thought he had made the playoffs. He hadn't made the playoffs, so he hadn't he hadn't played until May and June yet. So now it's about him continuing to take care of his body like he's shown us now throughout this injury and see how he can get back on the court and see what status he can get to.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing how he's doing. You know, obviously, he looks like he's in great shape. He's been working out. We've all seen the one-on-one battles he's been doing with.
And he looked good in New Orleans. Yeah,
he looked very good in New Orleans. So I'm looking forward to seeing how he plays tonight. You know, Steve Kerr talked about him playing in spurts, so he won't get a lot of minutes tonight. But just him being back out there on the floor. And you guys know, 3D, you know, when you're coming back from an injury, it takes a couple of games. It takes 5, 10 games to get your rhythm back, get your conditioning back, get used to the crowd, get used to the environment. But just having him out there is going to be a good sight.
I'm a little concerned with the excitement of the game because we never fully extend in practice or in a swimming pool. So when you got a guy coming at you and with that shake and bake, now you got to get down a real defensive stance. That's when you can say, oh, I'm back. And then the next morning, how stiff are you? How sore are you? Because now you have taken your intensity to another level, and all those things remain to be seen.
When you look at this lineup, have you ever seen a lineup with that many All-Stars? Can you think of a team with the starting 5, assuming Boogie's going to start? We have to wait and see when we hear from Steve Kerr.
I think Steve's already said he's going to start, yeah.
So when you look at this lineup, have you ever seen a group with 5 All-Stars in their prime?
A team like that. I mean, close with Detroit. With the exception of Tayshaun Prince when they had Rip Chauncey and the Wallace brothers, but never all 5.
And 4 of those 5 have scored 50 points in the game.
Yeah, I can't, I'm sitting here thinking.
Trying to think back of Magic Johnson, maybe?
Nah, because what? Byron Scott probably wouldn't have been the.
Correct, yeah.
Yeah, so it's hard to think, and maybe Celtics, maybe.
McHale, Bird,
backcourt,
Dennis Johnson.
Yeah, close. But Dennis Johnson was an all-star when he was in Seattle.
Not 4 guys who scored 50
They're all so young
in their career.
They're all 30 and under.
And they're in their prime.
Yeah, they're all 30 and under, right? Because Steph just turned 30. Yeah, so, whew, good gracious.
When Steph's the elder statesman, I mean, that's a daunting task, considering
like 9 months apart,
we don't know what we're going to see from Boogie. But if he's remotely close to that, as good as he looks working out.
Just skill-wise, his skill set. When you look at what the Warriors have done with Bogut, with Zaza Pachulia, JaVale McGee, now you're looking at Cousins, you're saying, wait a minute, talent-wise, you can put all those guys together and Boogie still has that much talent. The question is, mentally, will Boogie buy into what they're trying to do with the team? That's the bigger question.
So is the Achilles tear the scariest injury for an athlete? Because let's look at some careers that ended. Our very own great Isaiah Thomas didn't play a game after.
I was in that game, yeah, I was in that game.
So you remember that moment?
As soon as Isaiah started working here, we talked about it. It's like, man, you in that Orlando team. That's the last time I played basketball, and I tore my Achilles. So there's been guys, we were talking about to me, like Wesley Matthews recently, Dominique Wilkins back in our day in the 90s. So it's one of those injuries that you just never know versus the ACL now. We know there's a surgery that can get guys back to playing, all-star type basketball. The Achilles is just a little tricky.
Yeah, so Dominique Wilkins, after he tore his Achilles, was the NBA Comeback Player of the Year. So that's probably the most successful player that we've seen. So Boogie is really going to be an interesting case to study going forward just because of how great he was and how young he is for the Golden State Warriors.
And I think that's year 8, this coming to year 8, 28 years old. So I think there's still some time for him to get back to that status versus, Isaiah was at the end of his career. Dominique, we've always said, was the human highlight reel, was a freak of nature, so he got back to there. So it's going to be interesting. Yeah. Can you continue to put in the work to get the confidence back in your legs, get out there and to play the way you want to?